Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Gathering Place. I am going to, my name's Marilyn Hemingway, and this show is brought to you by the Gallagher Chamber of Commerce. And my co hosts can't make it today, they are tied up. So I am going to run a previous show. It was a great show, so it should be very interesting. Just wanted to spend a few minutes with you, talking to you, and remind you to please get registered to vote and to vote. Midterms are coming up, and we do want to meet with everyone and have politics talk so we can talk about the midterms and how important it is to get involved, get registered to vote and to vote, and also to get engaged and run for city and county councils. But unfortunately, my co-hosts are not with me today, and I did want to spend some time with them talking about the midterm. So I'm going to run a previous show. Wait. Looks like Brandon is coming in, which is good. And let me see if I'm getting him. And then, folks, while we're doing that, why don't I do the show opening? And then we'll get Brandon in, and we can talk about the midterms and midterm momentum. We'll see you in a moment.
Hello, I'm Marilyn Hemingway, and welcome to A Gathering Place. I said I'm stepping back because we have young voices who want to be heard, and they're moving on something.
Branding is really important to you and your business.
Even a basic type of technology, you learn it all.
And people are
Good question.
Well, folks, I'm Marilyn Hemingway, and I'm back, and we're trying to get Brandon in. And let me see if I can bring him in. I have a new family member. There we go. Brandon, you have good timing. Can you hear me? You unmute yourself.
I can hear you. I'm almost at my destination, but I knew I had to hurry up and hop on.
You have excellent time because I was about to show another show, and then you popped in and everything. So we can talk, and we don't have to do the whole hour because I know you're with your family. Hey, family.
Hello, everybody.
How's it? So yeah, we need you to be careful out there with the family and everything. But I know you wanted to talk about midterm momentum.
Yep.
And I was just telling folks so we could talk about midterm momentum. We got some comments too already, so we'll see. Ellen, yes, you do hair a cat. I have a new family member. So yes, you are not. It's not you, it's me. All right. And we got Nicola who is saying it's the Upson for me. Yes, that's true. It is the Upsons. They're always on the road together. So that's a good thing. All right. So we wanted to talk midterms. Midterms are coming up. Midterms are important. They're important not only because we have to elect people, which is always important, but why are we electing them? And one of the reasons I think we need to be very mindful of who we're electing this year is because I think democracy is on the line. And that's not an exaggeration. Now, all too often we dismiss people who say democracy is on the line, but between January 6th, between the investigations with Trump, between the folks who follow Trump, who happen to be the base of the Republican Party, that left their last national convention without a platform. So what do they really stand for? Their actions are speaking loudly that they continue to support someone who took national security papers to his home, totally unsecured, who's met with Russians in Saudi Arabia. We don't know what he shared with other countries. This is very serious, along with all the other things that are going on with Breonna Taylor, for example. Now that the police have been arrested by our federal government, Department of Justice. We're learning the full story that they were targeted. It was a state-sanctioned assassination of Breonna Taylor. It was all based on lies because they wanted to gentrify the neighborhood. And they have the evidence. Now it just has to go to trial. And I picked these things because they just show that this country is in deep trouble. And we have to be part of the solution. We have to decide, what country do we want to have in our lifetime and in the lifetime of our children and grandchildren. And I know the last time we saw each other, Brandon, was this past Sunday. You came down to Georgetown and you spoke at a fundraiser, and we had some time with each other. And you wanted to talk about the momentum going into the midterms. And also, let me not forget Beto, who was chastised by NPR for using the MF word against an Abbott supporter who was laughing when he spoke about the Uvalde shooting. And Beto was done. He had enough. And I think when he used the MF word, and I'm being polite, so when I'm in my regular company, I would use the full word. People got up and cheered and supported Beto because I think people are just done. People are just they're just done with the foolishness. They want this country to heal, come together, and we all move forward with a common mission. And those who speak to that common mission, on my personal level, those who I feel I elect that are fighting for me, fighting for the ideals of this country, those are the people I want to vote for. And I think Beto, what he did, tapped into something. And maybe pushing his momentum up, which I think is more complicated than that, but he's got some momentum. And Brandon, I know you wanted to talk about it. Looks like you're coming to a stop now. Ellen, I agree with you. We agree with you. We think he will make an excellent governor of Texas. Go ahead, Brandon.
At the end of the day, it's all about momentum. If you, as a movement, as a candidate, cannot create momentum, you have no chance of winning any election. And that momentum not only is shown in the excitement of the general public, but also in the dollars that you're raising. And I just got to give a shout out to Texas. And when I say Texas, I mean everybody in Texas, because Texans have believed in Texas before everyone else thought that Texas could be a purple state. Texans have been working to flip Texas for decades now. And they are showing that they understand how to organize, how to capture not just lightning in a bottle, but how to capture those things that build on momentum. And it's the 3 M's that we have to focus on. The message, their messaging is on point right now. I saw the MAGA group, Moms Against Governor Abbott, and they put out a television commercial with this man and woman in the doctor's office. Did you see that one?
Yes.
It was beautifully done. And that is messaging and communications at its finest. To take an issue that may be complex or maybe a wedge issue, humanize it and deliver it in a very authentic way, so that people remove the politics out of their face when it comes to this topic, and allow it to be to be accepted without those barriers. And I think they did a great job with that, and the messaging around it was spectacular. Also, the Texas Democratic Party, I know from having a friend who just happens to be the executive director of the Texas Democratic Party, have invested money into developing, crafting a message that they can put out across the state. Their messaging is on point, and their messaging is gaining them traction. And then the next M is money. You have to have money. Money for a movement or for a campaign is like gasoline for a car. If your car is out of gas, it's not going to go anywhere. And you try it. Empty your gas tank and think you're about to go up that road. It's important. And now they're raising money. And I got to shout out Jamarr, even though he's not here with us today.
Go ahead, finish, because he's about to join us.
Okay. Hours upon hours of call time every day, every week. Jamarr is raising money for the Texas Democratic Party in ways that they have not been able to do it in years. And Jamarr is building a name for himself across this country. And folks are watching because Texas has the message and he is making sure they have the money. And when you put all that together, you start to create a movement and momentum. And their momentum is because they have good candidates at the top of the ticket and great local candidates at the bottom of the ticket. And they have the organization to push that message, raise that money, and move those candidates forward. And I'm saying all that to bring it on home, Marilyn. You know, we always talk about how are we going to win? How are we going to flip states? How are we going to flip districts? This is the formula. And this formula can be boiled down to the local level. It can be customized for your city, your county, your state. But you have to watch the folks who are doing it, take their best practices, use November 8th as a case study, and get to work. And I believe, and I will put my wallet on the table for this one, Texas, with the leadership of Jamarr Brown and the top of the ticket like Beto O'Rourke, will be a case study that we'll be able to use moving forward on how you create momentum, how you mobilize on issues and messaging and turn, red states purple, red districts blue. Like, this is going to happen, and we gotta take advantage of this.
I want to say something before Jamarr says something. Part of this formula takes leadership, and I was thinking about that before we started. And Brandon, you just described leadership, but I want to point out one thing with the leadership that I was thinking about. This took years. I give it to Beto O'Rourke because he's lost twice for two offices that he ran for statewide, but he had a vision and he stuck with it. And many of us reach out to other people for the vision. Many people who run because they don't have vision. They run because they want to be liked, popular, or they want to make money. But they don't have vision of what they want their state to look like, or their city to look like, or their nation to look like. And when people like that run, they tend to be influenced by other people who tend to have money, who may not have the best interest of the people at heart, and they get influenced by those people. I want people to run who have vision, even if that vision is simply having your neighborhood safer, secure, cleaner. It tells me that you've thought about it. It tells me that you want something better than what is right now. And I give kudos to the leadership of Texas, including Jamarr, because of the work that he's done. But I was thinking in particular with Beto, and probably I had a little bit of when he used the MF word, he was just fed up. Because this man has been working for years around the state of Texas, having town hall meetings, sharing his vision, but also listening to the people. And to have people follow him and literally laugh at the death of 19 children and 2 teachers. I'm all for Beto. I'm sorry. That was the moment we needed to show some leadership and say, we're done with this. But we've got to realize this just didn't happen overnight. It's leadership, years of leadership building infrastructure that led to that moment, and that will lead to victory on November 8th.
Leadership matters. Leadership matters. And the lack of leadership matters even more.
Exactly.
And it has consequences. And we are seeing that all across the South, where these places that have been devoid of leadership are not moving and taking advantage of key opportunities. Nobody thought that Georgia could do it until Stacey Abrams led the way, right? Her leadership is what helped flip Georgia. Her vision for Georgia helped move Georgia forward. I'm waiting for us to move South Carolina forward, because our numbers, I don't care what anybody says, I look at these numbers every single day. Our numbers say that we could be Georgia, we could be Texas. We have a higher minority population than both of those, with definitely a better population than Georgia, and growing at the same rate as Texas and most of our areas. But we just need to take advantage of it. And I'll stop now because we got the
Jamarr to catch us up.
the illustrious Jamarr Brown.
Let me get off the mute. Hey, y'all. I heard y'all were talking about Texas. I thought I would just jump in and see what y'all are talking about. But, echo all the sentiments. I just was in Houston this last weekend, and our Beto has actually been on a 75-city tour of the state. And right now, Luke Warford, who is running for our railroad commissioner, he's on a tour right now of Texas. He's actually taking the train around the state. And what people will think is when they hear a railroad commissioner, they think that the railroad commissioner actually regulates the railroads. Actually, in Texas, the railroad commissioners, and there are 3 of them, and they're elected in staggered elections, but they actually regulate the energy industry. So they regulate the oil companies, etc. People don't know that. And so our candidate is right now on a tour. He's in El Paso today. I was just in Austin with Mike Collier, who's running for lieutenant governor. This is his second time running. He came within 4 points of beating Dan Patrick last time, and is still polling within 4 points 4 years later. So that race is pretty close. And in South Texas, we have Rochelle Garza, who will be the first Latina attorney general in the South, I believe, but and particularly in Texas, and she's polling within 2 points. So at the top of our ticket, we're polling anywhere between 2 and 5 to 6 points. But what I also add is we have a land commissioner who manages flood and emergency regulation. We have an agriculture commissioner candidate, Susan Hayes, where you don't only just do farming as agriculture commissioner. The agriculture commissioner in Texas manages the school lunch program for the entire state of Texas in terms of what our children and teachers and school workers are taking in terms of their nutrition. And then lastly, we have our comptroller for public accounts, Janet. So she's running. And this year we put together a slate that easily has 100 years of experience when it looks at how we regulate government, how we advocate on issues that help our communities, that move our communities forward. And to Brandon's point, it has been a lot to move around the state. I've been to urban centers. I've been to suburban areas. I was in Lubbock a few weeks ago. And so I've been all over, and the candidates have been all over. The chairman and the party officers have been all over. And so we are thankful for everyone who's been pouring into Texas, whether you live in Texas or anywhere else in the country, but you understand Texas. The thing that people should know is Texas has been a battleground for several of the issues that matter all over the country. A lot of the abortion bans, those laws passed here. A lot of the gerrymandering that you see, a lot of that's taken from here. The transgender youth sports ban, a lot of those bills passed out of Texas. And on the national level, when we flip, not if, but when, in the next few cycles, we flip Texas, we're on track to maintaining federal power. And that's going to be important in terms of the White House and the Congress. And so now none of this comes without its challenges now. We have about 80 days and it's a lot to do. And obviously, I think I've shared on this show a few times that, our laws have changed, but we have grown a full voter protection department in partnership with the DNC and Power the Vote, which is supporting the folks in Georgia and Wisconsin and Michigan in these places where we know the races are going to be close. It's not just about going to vote. It's about making sure people's vote count, both in the election, but also what happens after the election. So that's how, we're looking at particular pieces that are happening. And so we've got work to do in terms of how we navigate our county chairs and precinct chairs. We have 9,000 precinct chairs all over the state. And we have about 380 Democratic clubs across the state. And, a lot of those pieces are moving as much as we can. We're getting ready to do our vote by mail program. So making sure that people who need to vote by mail, who must vote by mail, are able to. We've hired a full-time poll worker manager that works in the party, that's working with our county parties to recruit. We're working to recruit 1,000 poll workers across the state right now. So there's just coordinated campaign. It's a lot going on. But, the pieces that I think is fundamentally important is we've got to understand that the infrastructure has to happen every election, and that the infrastructure also has to be incremental. And so we're thankful that Beto O'Rourke is running, right? And that he is, as you alluded to, he's run for other positions. But Beto O'Rourke lost by 3 points when he ran for the Senate in 2018. And so we're making gains even on that, where we actually almost flipped the legislature based on that. And so what we're looking at too is, how are we impacting the other races, the congressional races, the state house and commissioner courts races? And so I think that it's a lot happening in Texas, and people are excited. I was just, like I said, that's why I'm late, because I was with our lieutenant governor nominee. He had an office opening today and got a chance to do that. And the thing that I want to say, about Beto, we've got to also acknowledge the other candidates. We're thankful for the Stacey Abrams and the Beto O'Rourke's and folks that run. We need them. We need them in and out of the election. But their runs, the infrastructure that they built, have inspired a group of people. There are young people, women, people of color, LGBTQ folks, people with disabilities, all types of people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're getting up and running. And people are winning. And you would think there's some incumbents that lost in the primaries because what you said, Marilyn, right? That people who said, I have a vision for my community, they're stepping up and doing something about it. And so we're excited about that. And we know our work is cut out for us, also. But we also know that whatever happens in this election, we can't give up, that the work still has to happen. But we're pushing forward every single day. And the last thing I'll say is, I said this in a room of donors, and they said, what's the Democrats' mission? And I said, the Democrats, we've seen who the Republicans are. They've shown us throughout who they are. It's our job to believe them and beat them. And so that's what I'm telling people around the state, and that's what we're working on. And, I think that's some of the updates of what's going on. I'm sure folks might have questions, but it's not just Texas. I mean, there are things going on. Look at Kansas, that they beat back the abortion restrictions. I mean, so it's not just Texas and Georgia where we get a lot of the media play. It's Kansas, it's North Carolina, where the governor has vetoed really bad legislation. It's Kentucky, where they've vetoed really bad legislation. There's an abortion referendum right now in Michigan, that's happening. And so there's movement happening all across the country. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that even if they don't all get the most media coverage, what platforms we have, we should try to acknowledge those. So I'll stop there.
Oh, you're muted.
I would say both of us were muted, so give us a second. And I was still muted. So if any of y'all have any questions, drop them in the comments, because we've said a lot and it's a lot of good information. Jamarr, you gave us some wonderful information about Texas and the details that people need to hear and understand. There's a lot that goes into this. There's a lot to just more than just the titles that people run for. The responsibilities that people have, especially like secretaries of state, for example, in South Carolina and other states, that the Republicans are running people for Secretary of State simply to throw out election results. They want to get to the point where if they don't like the presidential election results in 2024, they're going to throw them out. What you said about the Republicans, they have shown us again and again, time and again, who they are and what their intentions are. At this point, if you vote for a Republican, if you support Republicans, you are also telling us who you are.
Mm.
I mean, no,
Yep.
you can't plead ignorance at this point.
Mhm.
You know, either you agree with it or you're willing to put up with it for your own selfish reasons. You know, so that's one reason why you need to vote Democrat too. But with that said, the Democrats need to do a better job at messaging and telling people what their vision is. And we've had this discussion before. That's one of our problems. What do we stand for other than being against the Republicans?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know that you're fighting for me. And I know y'all have heard me say that. Go ahead, Brandon.
Go
ahead, Jamarr.
Well, I was going to say actually that very thing. So maybe you were reading my mind in some way, because, you know, that's what I saw today. I was speaking with the precinct chair, you know, who came up to me at the event today. And she said, Jamarr, the thing I appreciate is that we're putting the real issues on the table in this election. And, you know, there's been a lot of back and forth about the MF thing. Guarantee you, I have gotten calls from all over the state, actually all over the country. And, you know, people are on different sides of it. One of the things I want to challenge us in these elections is to acknowledge that candidates are not perfect and leaders are not perfect. Part of leadership is also acknowledging where your role and your responsibility is in helping move the community forward. We're not asking for people to be, and should not be asking for people to be perfect. The second thing I think is important to what you're saying, Marilyn, is people want to know that there's somebody who's fighting for them, somebody who feels what they feel, somebody who understands that. And so we've been very intentional about working with our statewide candidates to go not just to the Democratic club meetings, but they're going to the plants, right, and meeting with the workers. They're visiting the schools, right? In that case, Beto was, you know, in, you know, those particular communities. Because I think that's the thing. Part of the responsibility is also of running for office and also being an elected official is meeting people where they are, right? And I think a lot of times in politics, it's been the reverse, that we should meet them where they are. And your responsibility is to meet us where we are. And so I think that those things are, you know, particularly important to acknowledge. And when Beto said it, I mean, I put it on Twitter, you know, as ED of the party. I said, sometimes you got to let loose on somebody. And part of that, too, is we're talking about the tension and the anger that people have felt when they look at these issues. You're talking about laughing at children being shot, right? That, you know, this was right before back to school. You know, the timing was probably terrible for that person. I don't even know his name. But, you know, at the end of the day, you're talking about parents who are sending their children to school and don't know if their children are going to come home and safe or in one piece. And so also making sure that people understand the impact of the issues and impacts of how we talk about our values. And then the second part is, and messaging is this buzzword. I'm just going to say it because as somebody who gets dinged on it every day now, it's not just about the message. It's also about how we deliver the message. And as Democrats, we have to be a little bit more careful. So in Texas, I can share what we do. We do weekly talking points. You know, we send sample graphics and things to our county parties and clubs, you know, et cetera. And people can tailor it to what they need, you know, for their particular community. And we do that every Monday. I just looked at the ones for this week, and it's here are the themes. This is how we need to talk about these issues. The problem that we have in the Democratic Party is not only the words and the messaging. The problem is everybody thinks they know what the message should be. And so by the time we get through our big tent in the party, we've dissected every word of our talking points. We've dissected every word of the article. And we're not talking about what we actually believe. You just got to go to people and say, these are the three things we believe in. How does that connect with you? And so we've been working with our folks to do that. We've been doing media training for our county chairs so that if they're on the radio, right, if they're on local news. I was speaking to the Midland and West Texas county chair on phone the other day. And she told me, she was like, this is the first time one of the first times we got covered by the local CBS station. And a lot of times stations, especially in rural and suburban communities, are looking for content, right? And so how can we empower people with the skills and the information that they need in order to move forward on that? So I think that I agree with you. Messaging is always a thing. It's become the best buzzword, but it's also about how we disseminate and how we get to a place where we can actually disseminate the message. That means knocking on doors. That means doing the radio and TV interviews. That means putting up the billboards. That means putting things in the Facebook group and not hiding behind being a Democrat, right? And so those are things that, you know, we're working on. It's always an evolutionary process, but we're working on it.
I love the holistic, multi-leveled approach, and I know Brandon has a lot to say about that. Go ahead, Brandon.
No, like Jamarr is saying all the things that I want us to do here in South Carolina, especially when it comes to message development and message integrity and message discipline and dissemination. All of that is things that we desperately need here in our own state. And when you started out, you were talking about, we're not looking for our candidates to be perfect. And I 100% agree on that. Even with our leadership, I ask people humbly, don't judge me on my perfection, but judge me on my effectiveness. And that's what matters. How effective is our leadership to get us to where we're trying to go and to accomplish the things we need to do right now? And I said this before Jamarr got on, I believe, looking at how we move forward, Texas is going to be a great case study and even blueprint on what state parties can do to create the infrastructure and organization needed to move a state forward. Gosh, have mercy. Media training for all of your county chairs, teaching them how to communicate with the media, how to push a message and narrative forward, how to work with their candidates. That is invaluable. Now you're not just depending on the headquarters to do everything, because they can't. Now you can, have in South Carolina 46 headquarters around the state pumping and pushing our message and our mission forward. Again, momentum. Everything Jamarr said is why we see Texas gaining momentum. And I gotta just reiterate, it is the leadership that is allowing this to happen. Beto isn't doing this on his own. Beto, didn't create this organization on his own. It was leaders like Jamarr, like the state chairman, former co-chair, executive director, that whole team working together, creating the coalitions that are now activated to move it forward. I'm excited to see what y'all are going to produce this November and in 2024, because this has longer term impacts on the state than just this year. So I'm definitely excited and my eyes are towards Texas for the first time.
Well, voting starts in 3 weeks, because we start the mail ballot process, where folks will be, applying to vote by mail. So in the next few weeks, you'll start seeing voting things happening in Texas. And then for in-person early voting, we have 65 days. So, time is of the essence, not only in Texas, as I mentioned, but, across the country. And you think like a year ago, we were just talking about what these elections look like and what we should be expecting. And, we've talked, over the past few months of, what we experienced in Texas, but it's crunch time now. And so I've, been telling my team, hey, we're at crunch time. And so we got to just hit go. And so we've been firing on all cylinders, and we'll do that the next, 80 plus days. So,
I do have a question, Jamarr. So, as I'm going around South Carolina and I'm talking to folks and people are saying, well, I wish we would see the candidate here, or the candidate's team has not been there, and we need X, Y, and Z. What do you say to Texans who approach you with that?
Well, y'all know Texas is the size of a country. Okay. So let's start there. And we have 254 counties. So I, have to humbly remind people, some places you got to fly, some places you have to drive, some places you take the train, depends. And I'll tell you what I do, at least. I meet with the campaign managers of our statewide races every week. And a lot of things that, I'll bring to them. Sometimes our county chairs are saying we have, such and such barbecue. We like our statewide candidates on whatever date and time. A lot of times they'll share with us, where they're going. And so we meet every week to just talk about, what they need. You know, I was just on a call with one of the campaign managers. He's like, hey, I need a organizer in this area. Do you know anybody? And so we have a full resume bank at the party. So we sent him, you know, we want to make sure that as the party, we haven't done everything perfect, but we want to be as the party as close as possible to getting people the fundamental tools that they need, you know, to be successful. So for me, I'm very intentional about in those conversations, where are y'all going this week? And then even taking their schedules, like I'm on all their press lists. I can see, oh, they're in Tyler, they're in Lubbock, they're in, you know, Brownsville or wherever they may be. And so I can always say, hey, let's send this over our press list. So, you know, they hopefully get some coverage. But, you know, that's how we do it. And, you know, and along with our political team, you know, work to serve as advocates for our county chairs and activists and organizers to say, hey, y'all, we've received these requests. The second thing that we do is we have every Friday that comes out. It's called the County Party Chronicle. And so now we have, as part of the County Party Chronicle, we have a county party calendar that's shared across the state. So I share that with the statewide so they know too, right? Here's the things that are happening in the counties. And so we do that every Friday. So every Monday you get the talking points. Every Friday you get the Chronicle because you see the events and the other party business and administrative information that you need. And so on Friday afternoon, we just released the statewide candidates. Our statewide candidates put together what we call digital toolkits. And so basically, excuse me, on the toolkits, you know, they were able to say, like, here's the digital asset of the signs. You can go into, and you can go print your own sign, right? Instead of waiting on the postage, right? If you know your local union printer down the road, you can go print it out and they just print it and you pick it up whenever you're ready. And so it's about offering those kinds of services and resources. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback about our emails that have gone out. Don't see a lot of people unsubscribe, and so I guess that's a sign. So you have to put the resources. You have to tell people what to do and where to go. And a lot of times people will do it, they just don't know where to go. And so the state party has tried to be a resource, an advocate, and a conduit to make sure that our folks are doing that. When our candidates announce for statewide office, we put together calls with our SDEC and county chairs, basically coming and allowing them to introduce themselves and their campaign staff. And so a lot of times, and then we give our candidates, you know, here's the county chair list. You know, if you're going to this county, here's the county chair's email and phone number. Call them up because they may be able to invite people to your event or to your meeting. You know, those are things that we do. And I'm looking at the comments. I don't know what sleep is. So somebody has to help me and define that. But I'm grateful to have a team. You know, we have with our interns, because they're paid too. We have, 47 people on our team that do this work every single day. We're one of the larger state parties in the country in terms of staffing capacity. And like I said, we do these things every Monday, every Friday. If you don't do anything else, these are the things you're doing. And things, in between. And I'm very intentional, along with the chair and the party officers, to make sure that we have the consistency in how we offer information and resources. So those are things that we do.
Jamarr, I'm glad that you mentioned what you do for county chairs, because I was going to mention about leadership. It's easy to recognize the leadership that has the name, that's been out there working, they've built a name. But we need to also recognize those that we don't know their names, but they've been building to this because they had their vision for their county or their precinct, and they knew they put the work in. Many of them will never know their names, and they've been putting their work in to invite you in and Beto and to do what they need to do. So we need to recognize the unnamed leadership. But that's I say that also that we all can be leaders. That's what I think a lot of people don't understand, that they're waiting for somebody to come along and be the leader and get them out of what they're in. And Barack Obama said it. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And once you understand that, everything that we do makes an impact, and you may not think about it at the time. You're in a red state like South Carolina. And I know it's frustrating because I know Brandon knows it.
I'm from South Carolina. I mean,
I was about to say, Jamarr knew it so much he had to leave.
Let's let the record reflect. I'm from Charleston. I recognize the unique challenges
Yeah,
that exist in
yeah.
Carolina.
But
But
there
let
are
me share
people
two
out
things.
here
Let me share two
working.
things really quick.
Go ahead.
Because like you mentioned, leadership is important. I know in South Carolina, you all elect county chairs by your conventions. In Texas, we elect our county chair. They're elected on the ballot. So like you have to run for county chair. You file, you raise money, you campaign, so it's almost like running for state representative, there's like counties where people spent $50,000 to $100,000 to be elected. And so part of why we offer these resources and look to our county chairs in this way is they're elected officials too. And so we give them the honor that they're due. Our precinct chairs are elected on the ballot. So technically, by law, the county chairs are the honorable because they're elected. We have a whole database with the Secretary of State's office. So that's one, and at least in Texas. And then two, I forgot to mention, we meet with our county chairs every week. So we built two things: the County Chairs Association, and they have their own slate of officers. They have like a president, vice chair, secretary. And it's the county chairs, and they meet every Tuesday at 5:00. And they get training, they get technical support and assistance, and those sort of things. And then they elect leadership within themselves to communicate with us. So a lot of times we get the good things and we get the criticism too. And that's been going on for a few years. So we've maintained that. And then we built out what we call our regional political managers program. And so the regional political managers are all assigned to county chair. And so their job is to work with the counties. So they have a set of counties, and you're going to their county meetings every month. You're helping them set up events. This year, back in June, what we did is our data team put together district profiles of every county in the state. And we said, statewide, we need to win this much. In your county, we need this much votes. How do we work with you to build a GOTV plan so that as a county chair that's come into this office, we're helping you strategize, right? Because part of the leadership is we have to teach people some things, right? And it's not just expecting people to lead because they're angry at this issue or they want to make a change. It's also about saying, let's elevate your leadership, right, by teaching you these things. And so we've been able to work with our counties to have GOTV plans, right? So that they're, phone banking every 3 days a week or, whatever it is, for that particular county. And so also working with those elected leaders to really create goals and connecting those goals to tactics was important. And so, that took it took 6 months of data analysis to get us there and a lot of money. But, that's, an important piece, also as well. And like I said, they have those district profiles. So if they want to help Beto O'Rourke and Mike Collier and Rochelle Garza, hey, we need 25,000 votes out your county. How are you going to help us? How are we going to work together to get there? And so I think that I think just being strategic in that way and working with that. And, like I said, everything's not perfect, but we can't let perfect be the enemy of the good and the great. And we work with what we have and what resources we have. But, those are pieces that are important, and we have to build that infrastructure because that also carries into each election. As y'all know, in Texas, we have elections every year. So we don't have an off year. So we elect a lot of our local offices in what would be the off year for a lot of people. So Texas does not have an election. This election now going into the general election is the 5th election. 6th election this year. So, we're always in elections here. And so we have to continue to invest in the infrastructure. It would not work at all if we didn't.
And can I highlight something that Jamarr said in the organization that they've done in their strategy? I just saw a comment that mentioned that one of the counties here in South Carolina was a lost cause. But when you have done the numbers and you identify what the pathway to victory is, even your reddest counties have a responsibility to bring votes to the dance so that you can win, right? Our reddest counties in South Carolina include Oconee, Lexington, Horry County, and there's some other ones sprinkled about, right? But even those counties have a benchmark that if they meet that or exceed it, it brings us that much closer to victory. We just have to identify what that benchmark is and communicate it to our county chairs and county leadership, and then support them in the work that is needed to be done in order to deliver those votes. When we have folks here in South Carolina who feel like they are in lost cause counties, there's no hope, it's because they have not received the information or the support that lets them know how they play a role in the greater success. And I'm looking forward to that changing as we move forward.
I agree with that, Brandon. You can lose the county, but win the state with the numbers that come out of your county. And you're right, but if people don't know that, then they get despair. Despair is created. They get frustrated, and that's part of our problems right now in South Carolina. But there is a way to victory. There is definitely a way to flip South Carolina, and a lot of it has to do with getting knowledge down to the grassroots, down to the voters, down to the Democrats who are hanging in there saying, we can win, we can make this happen. But they need knowledge, they need information, they need data. So, we're going to keep working, keep trying, I think. Keep talking. Jamarr, I wrote it privately, but I wanted to say this. You gave us a master class today. I'm going to share this with some folks, and I'm going to send it to them and say, y'all need to look at this, and we need to start implementing some of this stuff, because if Texas can do it, we can do it.
And too, Marilyn, if I can add, demand it. I think sometimes too, we have to learn, part of leadership is also demanding what you need. I think sometimes we sit back and we wait for somebody to send talking points. Or we're sitting back and we're waiting for somebody to send a graphic, or, to create a meeting, or, whatever, the demand is. And some of this was demanded when I arrived. I've been now at the party a year and a month, and time has flown. I mean, there's some things I walked in the door, it was like, hey, this is what you need, right? And I think my leadership style has always been one of collaboration, right? That I can't win Texas by myself. I could have every dollar. I could lose every minute of sleep. It's just not going to happen. And I think that we have to get out of that to say, you may be the leader that starts the thing. You may be the leader that changes the thing, but you're not going to be the only person that does the thing. And I think that we've got to do that. And we can talk about stories for days about how people think that they're the only ones who can do stuff. And that's, maybe another show. But I think that's the piece that I, really wanted to share is also you need to ask for what you want. So our chair had a very competitive re-election. A lot of the things that we're implementing is things that when he traveled the state running for re-election, we don't have these things. So part of it too has been his leadership in saying, we're willing to make a change and make a difference. Maybe these are the things we thought everybody needed, and these are the things we actually need. Let's focus our time and our money and other resources on the things that people need. And I think I don't take this job as personal. And I've had to learn that coming in. You're not going to win everybody. That's just the reality. And so for me, it's also been about this isn't the Jamarr Brown Democratic Party. It's the Texas Democratic Party. And I'll work with whoever we need to work with and learn to take my own personal feelings out of it so that we can stay clear, on the mission. And so I think those are important pieces to outline it's not just about saying, we can't win. It's about also saying, have you demanded what you need have you built the partnerships? Have you built the relationships to get what you need in order to, effectually organize in your particular communities? And so it's a two-way street. Everybody, at least I don't know in South Carolina, but in Texas, we get the finger a lot. And sometimes we point it back because, it is what it is. And so it's two ways in terms of how we set priorities. And we're working on long-term strategic planning. And that's actually a party rule. It actually passed our state Democratic Executive Committee. So it is a party rule now to have a strategic plan. I think more states should probably do it. And so now anybody who's, executive director or works at the party every, certain amount of years, you look at a plan and figure out the priorities and do some of those things. And so the party's ever changing. It's always evolutionary. And I think we just have to remember that as part of the process.
I think those are very good points, especially about strategy and also more so demanding what you need. that goes back to that word we've been using, leadership. Demanding what you need actually shows leadership, folks. Once again, it's don't wait on anybody. You are the leader that you've been waiting for. And part of that is demanding what you need to get the job done. Brandon, your thoughts? This, I said we were going to take less than an hour today because you got Jamarr, he was riding with his family. They're probably outside, screaming at him something about "Daddy, come on" or something outside the van. I don't know.
We're at the in-laws' house, so they're inside playing board games. We had family fly in from Indiana and Arizona, so they're not even about me.
Very good, very good. Go ahead, Brandon.
My thoughts, Marilyn, is similar to what I said when I was last in Georgetown, in that as Democrats, and this is in the spirit of that MF bomb that was dropped by candidate Beto O'Rourke. We've gotten stuck in this place where we say, well, when they go low, we go high. Well, sometimes when they go low, we got to kick them in the face, because a bully will continue to bully you until you show them that you're not afraid and you got just as much as my friends would say, thump as they got, right? And as Democrats, we cannot roll over. We have to be willing to get in the fight so that we can win. And what we're seeing is candidates and organizations who are not afraid to get into the fight move forward and closer to victory than those who passively stand by and watch things happen. Everything that was said on today's show, Marilyn, I think outlined that in different ways. The strategy, the organization, the action items that was shared today is how we can get in the fight. We don't have to get in the mud, but we do have to get in the fight if we want to win. And everything that was said today outlines that. And I hope that anyone who's watching, because I've been thinking about this show, particularly more so than any that we've done in the past, needs to be shared far and wide. Jamarr gave a masterclass on what organization looks like and how it can function. And I think that it is something that we can take statewide and even down to the city level, town level, and start implementing that. When we start doing this work to create this infrastructure and organization, to create and push and promote our messaging and communicate out, we can start to move things forward. So I'm excited about everything that we can do after this, because now that we know better, we can do better. And we should hold each other accountable to that doing. So I'm happy. Thank you.
Jamarr, you helped us today. You energized us. So I know you did good. You did good.
I'm ready for the next 80 days. I think that's where I am.
I can appreciate that. I really can. And but we needed to hear that too, because we are planting seeds all the time. And this is just one more seed. And now we need to nurture it through the hard work and realize that this is, as you say, it's strategy, it's long-term work, it's long-term thinking, it's infrastructure, and it's every once in a while building those wins, those little wins on the city level, as Brandon said, the county level, all the way up, that people can see the progress. And then you get to the point where you start getting the statewide victories and stuff. But we got to start someplace. We've got to start someplace. And maybe this is the day that someone other than us, Ellen, we thank you for joining us today. Nicola, thank you for joining us today. Someone listening today, maybe this has planted a seed in them to come out to your Democratic Party meetings, fundraisers, candidate events, get some knowledge and get to work. So I think this is time to wrap up. A good time to wrap up. We're 5 minutes before an hour, so that's a good time. I want to thank you, Jamarr, for joining us, and Brandon for joining us. Both of you came in. You came in hot. Because I was about to say, hey, we're just going to show a repeat show, but it was well worth it. Excellent show, guys. Thank you. You know I love you. Jamarr, I know it's 80 days, but make sure you take care of yourself.
I
Pace
will.
yourself. Oh, Ellen said need some melatonin.
Oh, I have some. I'm looking at it right now.
All right, very good. And the same to you, Brandon, because Brandon stays on the road supporting the different county parties. He was in Georgetown last week. I know he's all over. He tries to get as many places as he can to show support. And you do the same thing, Brandon. And everything will be all right. I think that was in a movie trailer recently. Now, okay, now. That's I got a new theme song now.
Yeah.
All right. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate you. And we'll be seeing you later. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Take care of yourself.
Okay. Bye, y'all. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Everyone, we want to thank Brandon and Jamarr for joining us. Great show. I thought they wouldn't be able to make it, but they came in hot. They were hot coming in and hot through the whole show. I want to appreciate everyone who stayed with us, people coming in and out, dropping your comments. This was a good show, folks. Really appreciate you coming out and joining us. And just want to remind everyone, coming up, we have the Gullah Geechee Environmental and Energy Conference in Georgetown, South Carolina at the Howard Center. This is going to be a hybrid event. It'll be in person at the Howard Center. You'll be able to sign up virtually and view it virtually. Also, if you can't make it to Georgetown, registration will open September 1st. And of course, you want to be a vendor, reach out to us. We do have a sponsorship packet and a vendor packet. Be happy to email it to you. Just contact me at 843-318-8644. And what else we have coming up? Oh, September 1st, we start our next entrepreneurship course. And that is also a hybrid course. Here we go. You could go to Eventbrite and sign up, or you could go to GullahGeecheeFoundation.org and sign up. It is $200, and through a generous grant award from Horry County, we are able to discount our going rate to $200. But at the end, you will have a lean business plan, 5 additional hours with a business coach, appropriate addition to the Gullah Geechee Seafood Trail, and membership for 1 year in the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. So if you want to join this, go to Eventbrite and look up our hybrid entrepreneur course. It takes place in Bucksport, South Carolina. It is also virtual. Yeah, I've enjoyed it today. You enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thanks, Jamarr and Brandon. Once again, be safe out there. And thanks to you for joining us and giving us some great feedback today. And yes, I am going to share this show with other folks. Thanks, everybody, and good night.